Good morning, all you wonderful Austroflamm and Rika fans out there. I'm Scott with Off-Grid Stoves and More, and this is a quick short in order to break down the combustion fan, as in the potential components that can go out on the fan, and also what's called a Hall IC unit. And what a Hall IC unit is, these minute wires here that sends the RPM information from the motor itself to the control board. Now, as you can see, you have three wires, a white, black, and a red, very, very small wires, and these wires have a tendency to pull out of the IC connector. Okay, and if they're in there just loose, what can happen is your stove will stop feeding pellets. The combustion fan will not run at the appropriate speeds that it needs to in order to operate the stove properly. And as you can see here, the other side has a little heavier gauge wire. So you have white, black, red, and then you have white, blue, red. Okay, and the connectors just goes together like so. All right. Now, they also come apart here on this side. So you really want to trace the wires back if you're having problems with the combustion fan running erratically, or the auger motor won't necessarily start, or if by chance the light on the control board does not initiate and start flashing. So all of this ties in together. Now it's very important to check this connection and make sure that these are connected together securely. They actually snap lock together. And then you want to inspect and make sure that these wires are not loose inside of both sides of this connector. The next thing that we have on the combustion fan is a capacitor. Basically, all this capacitor does is it prevents power fluctuations from affecting the fan. So if by chance that it's got a surge, or if your house has a tendency to send a current that is not a continuous same voltage all the time, and if it fluctuates, this basically balances it out and makes sure that you don't get surges and so forth, and your fan is not going to run faster and slower and faster and slower. If this device, the capacitor, goes out, your fan is toast. It's gone, okay? The Hall IC connectors here, this is an easy fix. Okay, we have these connectors and we can send them to you. If you happen to pull these out, unfortunately, you can't get the internal components of the connector out without damaging them, and they're crimped down. So what you'll have to do is get a hold of us so we can send you new ones, and you'll clip the wires, you'll strip them, and then you'll put the new connectors on, and then they literally push inside. So there's a two-part version of this connector. There's an internal silver connector that connects to your wire that inserts inside of this plastic connector, okay? That right there is the electronics portion. The next thing that happens on the combustion fan is the bearing itself. The bearing itself is rebuildable, and I am going to be putting a video on how to rebuild these. I'm just looking for the time to do it because it does take a good hour plus in order to do it. Double that by time I'm, filming it and editing it and the whole bit. So if you get to the point to where your fan starts to grind, squeak, or seize up, then it's time to either replace the fan, or if I have my video out, you'll be able to I'll show you how to take it all apart. We do have all of the internal parts to rebuild the fans. So if by chance you're savvy enough in order to strip this thing apart, I can send you the bearings and so forth. Alrighty? We're having a lot of issues right now of individuals spring cleaning. The weather's starting to turn nice, so people are either pulling their stoves out, putting it up on their workbench, or they're just getting in there and they're trying to take everything apart. And you have to understand something, that the wiring harnesses on these stoves are very brittle. They're 30 plus years old. So especially on the air sensor. The air sensor has the minute wires that when they're installed and they sit over 30 years, you'll look at the top of your air sensor and the wires are bent, and they're normally bent down. So every time the stove vibrates, you open it, you close it, whenever you clean it and you bump the wires or the wiring harnesses, you're shaking those small little wires. And I kid you not, we've probably had a dozen or more broken wires at the air sensor due to the fact that people are breaking them when they're pulling the air sensor out to clean them, as in the videos that I have on, or to clean the fresh air tube, you have to pull the air sensor out in order to clean the brush in through the internal air inlet. Or if you are just doing anything in the stove and you're just moving and yanking and pulling on the wiring harness, not necessarily intentional, but it just happens that those brittle wires are breaking. So just today we had a gentleman that we had to direct to investigating a broken wire on his air sensor, and we're good to go now. So there you go. There's a quick tip. Thank you for watching our quick shorts. If you have any additional information that you need, or if you need a manual, if you've obtained this stove secondhand and you did not receive a manual with it, Julie can shoot you a PDF version by email so that you will have a copy and you'll be able to read up on the stove and understand it a little more clearly. Alrighty? Thank you for all the kind support out there. Thank you for all of the wonderful comments, and we appreciate you guys depending on us in order to keep your Austroflamm and your Rika running. You guys stay safe out there. Peace.